This is Event Masters. Behind the scenes stories, experiences, and lessons shared by the world's leading event experts. Hosted by Christian Napier.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Event Masters. I'm Christian Napier, and in this episode, I am delighted to be joined by a colleague who we go way back in time, back to our days in Rio de Janeiro, Tiago Paes. Tiago, how are you?
Hi, Christian. Hello, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be here.
Well, it's an honor to have you join our podcast today. And I have to ask, before we get into all of the storytelling and everything, where are you exactly joining us from?
From Zurich, from FIFA Headquarters.
All right, so you work for FIFA now.
Yes, I've been here for the last 8 years. And if we count the time I was in Brazil working for the World Cup, not with FIFA, but with the local organizing committee, then we can count already 13 years. So 13 years working directly with the World Cup, 8 here in Switzerland.
Holy smokes. I can't believe it's been that long. I mean, if I look at your bio, you've been involved in this business, this event industry for a long time, more than 20 years. And you mentioned being involved in the local organizing committee in Brazil, 2014, the FIFA World Cup of 2014. And you had the responsibility in the last 3 World Cups for the planning and operations of all the stadiums involved in the World Cup. So that was Brazil, Russia 2018, Qatar 2022. And you're currently working on this for the 2026 World Cup that's going to be held here in North America. You've got a background in sport and business management, formal education in there. We're also an amateur athlete. I did not know that about you, Tiago, so I'm curious to hear that story. You manage large teams all around the world with many different backgrounds and really have a heavy focus on leadership and communication and planning and executing local and global projects. In all, you've worked on more than 60 events, including numerous FIFA events, Olympic Winter Games, FIVB Volleyball World League, World Judo. I mentioned already the Pan American and Para-Pan American Games, and the Rio 2016 Olympic bid, where we worked on together. And you've done just so much around the globe. So it's an honor to have someone of your stature join our humble podcast today, Tiago. Thank you so much for being here.
Wow, sounds like great. When we go through those things, we don't notice, right? We're just doing the job and things are lining up one after the other. We take the opportunities, but when we look back and say, maybe we did something correct.
Well, I'm curious to know. I mean, you said this journey started for you, decades ago. So why don't you kind of give us the backdrop of how you actually got involved in this crazy major event sport industry in the first place?
Yeah, I think back to my years in high school and my entire life, actually, I always loved sports. Watching sports on TV, all sorts of sports. Football, American football, tennis, Formula One, whatever, we can name all of them. So I grew up knowing that I would like to work with sports. Was not so sure about what I would like to do, but within sports. And then I got to the university in São Paulo, and one day having events classes, there was one person who came to talk about sports events, one of the lectures. And I simply got interested about the topic. I sent him a message. I think he was not so interested in replying just to one of the students. He gave the message to his assistant. And then he replied to me, not really answering the questions, but said, we are organizing an event in São Paulo, a beach soccer event. If you want to come, yeah, feel free. So then it started. I went there, I worked as volunteer. And the next week they had another event, so they invited, come, we pay you now this time. And that started. And this person who gave me the lecture was Ricardo Trade, Baca. So that was 20 years ago, more, 23 years ago now. And coincidence or not, we more or less keep working together somehow, either directly or indirectly. He's now working in Copa America, so we keep constant contact.
Wow, what a great story. You mentioned Sao Paulo, and you also mentioned being a fan of American football. I think it's interesting that the word that we're hearing around here now is that there may be a National Football League game played in Sao Paulo next year or the year following. So I think it'd be super fun to see a game played in Brazil. So anyway, I just think that's really, really cool. Okay.
I think
I
it's
asked
really
you to
cool.
share with me some key lessons that you've learned in your over 20 years working in this industry. And so I want to go through some of those key lessons and the stories behind those key lessons. And the first one that you sent through to me uh, was always have a backup plan and a backup power generator. So I'm curious about the lesson that you learned here and the story behind it.
Yeah. On the first event, and that came from the former president of the Brazilian Olympic Committee, Carlos Nussmann. He was always saying, we need to have backup plans. If it's rain and this and that, we cannot run out of power, broadcast. So maybe it's a bit exaggerated, but that was the rule, right? And then many years after, I was working in the LOC in preparation for the World Cup 2014, and we were in charge of organizing Brazil national team friendly game. And it was not on a friendly game, but was the farewell game of Ronaldo phenomenon. And the match was in São Paulo, Pacaembu Stadium. So we were trying, it's a stadium from the 1940s, right? It's a beautiful stadium, but with a lot of challenges to bring kind of World Cup test event. And one of the points discussing with the stadium, with the city was, okay, we need backup generator. No, we don't need. So, but why not? No, we have been doing events here for the last 50, 60 years, and it only happened once, so we don't need. So, no, we need. This is a big event. It's a World Cup test. We need to do things as close as possible. It's Ronaldo last match. So this discussion took a while. And in the end, yes, the generator was installed. And then what happened on the match day? It was June, July. So it's winter in Brazil. It's not the rainy season. But it happened that on that day, the big storm came and the city was out of light and the traffic was crazy and some trees on the ground, but the light was there. So there was no delay on kickoff. There was no hiccups on broadcast nor anything. Yes, it was difficult for the public to arrive, but I mean the event was ready to take place. So I was glad that lesson back that I heard from Carlos Nussmann really really happened. I mean, you cannot just go for a big event, live television, with a backup plan.
All right. So coming back to your lessons learned, the lesson of the backup plan and the power generator, taking care of these contingents, making sure that every detail is planned. You've got another lesson learned of focusing on rehearsing every single detail. And why don't you tell us the story behind that lesson?
Yeah, that was award ceremony. We were 2 days prior to the final game, and there were several elements on that specific awards. So we had all the hostesses who would bring the medals, the trays. We even had a fake trophy. We had the announcer, but we didn't have on the rehearsal the responsible for a few other elements. No, it's fine. It's a great company. They are used to it. There is no need. We can do the walkways, we can do the announcements, but the surprise elements, which were some fireworks coming from the pitch, not from the roof of the stadium, but from behind, um, we know how to do it, no problem. So okay, um, we had the rehearsal, everything was fine. So it was match day. Everybody got in place, got their headsets, position, lists of who would receive the prizes, the striker, the best player, the second best player, everything set in place. So the match was over, everybody got in, and the stage, the crew, they put everything. And when we stepped on the pitch, the radio stopped working. So the coverage of the radio was not reaching the midfield. It was really close to the tunnel. And we did the rehearsal close to the tunnel, not to damage the pitch. So we didn't know that the coverage was not going further. So that was the first thing. Okay, nothing to do. We communicate visual, we do signs, everybody rehearsed, so everybody knows what to do. And then it started. And suddenly, so one trophy was delivered, the second trophy, and then the player, I was responsible for lining up the players. So the third best, the second best, and the first best. And I put them in order. But suddenly one player came, I think I got the wrong trophy. You told me I was the second best, and I got the first. I said, oh my God. But then I couldn't communicate with people on the stage. So somehow they exchanged, because lack of communication, they gave the wrong trophy to the wrong person. So then the whole thing started. Okay, the show must go on. The TV put the right letters on the screen. And then there was one more award. I don't remember, I think for the striker or someone. And the guy raised the trophy. And then someone pressed the button for the paper, which was supposed to be only at the end, not in the middle. And then we saw those paper coming everywhere. So, oh my God, what happened? This was the guy who was not in the rehearsal. And oh my God, so we continue. So the runner-up got their medal, then the winner got the trophy, but then there was no paper anymore. And then came the fireworks, and the fireworks worked, but was not ideal because we only saw computer simulations. So that was probably my worst day on an event, where almost everything went wrong. Everybody survived, nobody got injured, but was a disaster.
Oh my goodness. So eventually though, the athletes got their correct medals and everything, and that was all
Yeah,
sorted out, but the presentation itself was a bit of a challenge, it sounds
yeah.
like.
The good thing is that many people on TV, they did not notice, the general public. Let's say only those who are really looking into that and they know the procedures. What happened, right? But the general public, they couldn't catch the mistakes, but we were like destroyed afterwards. Oh my God.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, you're right that the public doesn't see that, but I'm curious from your perspective, working in this industry, is it, and this is a little bit off topic, but is it a bit challenging for you sometimes to go to an event? Sometimes I find myself going to an event and I am just naturally seeing things that are happening back of house, or I'm thinking, well, they shouldn't have put the barricades up like this, or maybe they should have queued people this way or that way. And it actually at times impacts my ability to really enjoy those events to the fullest, because I'm just seeing all these things that I think, oh, they could have done this or they should have done that. Do you ever have that kind of experience, having worked in this business for so long?
Yeah. When I'm watching, doesn't matter which sport, I'm more watching the surroundings, the advertising boards, the setup of security and team benches and the lights, everything. Then I said, no, forget it. I'm not working, so it doesn't matter. It's someone else's problem. Let me focus on the game and enjoy. But it's an exercise. You're right.
I just remember the other day I was watching an American football game on television, and the team scored the winning touchdown, and instead of noticing the celebration of the players, I was noticing the security person turning around and celebrating with the players, and thinking, this person's supposed to have their backs to the show. Why is this person turning around and celebrating with players? It was just that kind of thing. And you know how it is. You just kind of see these funny things. Um, all right. So I want to, you mentioned Baca before. You've worked with him for a long time. We've had Baca on our show, and he shared some amazing stories. And I really enjoyed what he shared, and more importantly, enjoyed working with him. And you have an important lesson learned, which is to treat everybody well. And you reference him specifically. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the story behind this lesson?
Yeah, maybe it's not really coming only from Baca, but something that I learned in my life from my parents, family. Right, you should have, irrespective of anything, treat people well. I think that's the basic. But bringing to the context of an event, Baca always said, treat the lowest ranked people very well. The person cleaning the toilets, the security guard, or the person setting up the temporary structure, because those are the people who will help you when you need something. It's not the director who is in the air conditioning, sitting on the suite, eating and drinking. He will not solve any problem during the event. But while something is happening and you need to be quick, it's that guy that in the first day of the event, you just said, good morning, how are you? Is the one who will save the event in the end. And that's totally true. When you get to a stadium and you see the maintenance guy or the person who puts the net in the goal, those are the most important ones. So once you talk to them, same level, they feel really appreciated, and they will do everything to deliver the best. And really, they are event saviors. It's not the directors at all.
Something, I think that's a fantastic point. And something I would add to that is, and I'm curious to hear your own experience about this. It's not only the relationships with the, no job is too small kind of thing, but you have the ability to work with many of the same people across many different events. And, if you treat them well and with respect, then that increases your own chances to continue in this business, because this business can be difficult.
Yeah.
And in talking with a lot of people, it seems to me that the relationships that we have are perhaps the most important thing that we can nurture, because at the end of the day, this business is run by people, right? And if you can find ways to work together, that's fantastic. And you mentioned that, you and Baca go back a long ways, and you just kind of are within each other's orbits, doing this work, and it's great to have the. So I'm curious if you can just, talk about that a little bit, not just the relationships with the, as Baca rightly pointed out, the lowest people, but also the relationships of people who work in this industry as a profession, and they and are going on from event to event across the world.
No, you are absolutely right, 100%. The industry is not that big. So people who you work here one day, and the next day, they might be your boss, and vice versa. So if you don't have um, this network, or if you don't treat everyone right, then you're gonna be pushed away. It's the nature of the business, right? So when we have colleagues, which one day, and I was pretty lucky, I have to say, when I mentioned that beach soccer event, I worked with Baca, but it was not only him, it was people who then later became director of big companies like Nike or the International Volleyball Federation, and we worked together or somehow related on a number of events. So this network facilitates everything, and I barely had one work interview, to be honest. Things were happening, connecting one after the other because you have this network and, of course, the quality of your work. If you don't, there is no quality, there's no network which will help anyone. Right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to be able to deliver, and if you cannot deliver, then people lose their trust in you, and if they lose trust, then they're not going to invite you to come along the journey with them as you know the events roll on. So that's a fantastic lesson. Okay, this one is, you know, every other lesson that you've listed out that you sent to me ahead of time, you're like, okay, I understand what that is, but this one is completely cryptic. It sounds so random. So the lesson that you wrote was rice and beans, and then in brackets, bread and butter. So what is the lesson? What is the lesson of rice and beans, bread and butter? What's the story behind that?
So, as you lived in Brazil, you know what rice and beans means to Brazilians. The basic meal which provides you energy for every day for working. So, no matter what, that's the basic. So, if the basic is well done, we are good. So, on top of rice and beans, you can put meat, you can put fish, you can put salad, fries, but that's the base, right? And the bread and butter is just a translation to English of the what rice and beans means to us. And I was working at the Volleyball Federation in Brazil, which it is a top sport in the country, right? So when the number of events and the quality of events is very high, and was very high back then in 2007, 2008, with a lot of innovations, entertainment. And this continues now. If you watch any of these World League matches, volleyball World Championships, you see very high quality. Maybe because some people who were back there in the Brazilian Federation are now in the International Federation, very competent people. And once we were having a meeting discussing innovations. And then people start getting crazy with ideas and this and that. And then one person said, hey, let's step back. Let's do the basic. A good event needs to have the basic well done. And the example was the VIP area. The carpet needs to be well installed, needs to be clean. The flowers need to be fresh. So we don't need to be fancy or complicated. Things need to be clean, well installed. The waiters need to have their uniforms clean and looking good. And we need to have food and drinks, period. We don't need to complicate. Do the basics well done, and then the event will have quality. And I always thought about that, and always try to do. And I see nowadays, in the biggest scale, People are having amazing ideas. It's like trying to build a house starting from the window and not from the foundations. Hey, come on, let's step back. What do we have to do? The World Cup is great. It's a fantastic and complex project. However, we are still organizing football matches. And football matches happen all around the world every single day. It's not that complicated. We need to bring the players, we need to bring the refs, we need to have TV. So one by one, we can do, if the basics well done, then the rest of the event will be a success. But let's not try to think or overthink too much things which could be simple. It's better to have it simple and clean rather than too complicated, too fancy and not working. So that's the rice and beans.
Well, yeah, I totally agree. You have to get the basics right. And it doesn't matter how many really cool things you do. If you don't have those basics right, then people will be frustrated. You know, like you say, if the transport is not working, or if food and beverage is not working, and you don't have those basic things settled, then a lot of that other stuff doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Now, that being said, as you said, keeping it simple, another lesson that you've got learned here is don't save budget on dressing and signage. So, what's the lesson there?
Yeah, no, I think cutting budgets is natural on any event. We start with everything and then start getting to the reality and cutting. Um, and normally dressing and signage is one of the favorites that people like to cut. But no, this thing, it has the power of transforming a very simple event into something nice. If you're organizing just a street run, and if you have beautiful portals, some flags, that looks like a great event. But if you do a fantastic whatever sport event without a beautiful dressing, you can have everything working. You can have perfect broadcast. You can have perfect pitch. You can have everything. But with no signage, it will look poor. So it has the power to transform a fantastic event into a not nice event, and has the power to transform a very simple event onto a very nice one, because it simply can cover things, ugly things that people cannot see, and looks beautiful. So, and it's important also to impress with that. So I would say cut everywhere you can, leave dress and signage for later, because it has a big impact on the feeling of people going to an event.
I think it's a great lesson, and in addition to the aesthetic reasons to maintain that, I mean, there are a lot of practical reasons as well. I mean, sometimes when people start cutting back on the signage and things, then people get lost and they don't know where they're supposed to be going, and they get confused because the signage is not working. And I remember, working on events, and I'm sure you do as well, where because of a lack of signage, what happens? People just start putting up their own signage, right? And so
Sure.
you have paper plates, and you have other things, sheets of paper or a board, stuck up to say with an arrow saying go that way, right? And it just diminishes. Not only does it diminish the look of the event, but it also it's an example that people take to say, well, the people who were planning this event maybe weren't taking it seriously, because if they were taking it seriously, then this kind of stuff wouldn't be happening, right? And that's an unfortunate assumption that spectators make, not really appreciating all of the effort that goes into planning these events, because they have no idea. They don't know that you've been planning this thing for years and years and years, and you've been thinking about every little detail, and you've sat in countless meetings defending this budget and so on and so forth. So
Yeah.
fantastic lesson. Thank you for sharing that. Tiago, you've got some other stories that I know you want to share. One involving one of the most famous footballers of all time, Maradona. So I'm curious if you can share that particular story with us.
That was good. It was one of the FIFA Ballon d'Or event when all the best players come to receive the trophy. And in that specific year, I don't remember, I think it was 2016 or 17. It was in Zurich. So all legends came to the headquarters. There's a beautiful football pitch there to play. And only stars, you can name it, Maldini, Batistuta, all those caliber of players. And let's say the chief, the president, was Maradona, who at the time, with problems on his knees, he couldn't barely walk. It was kind of sad to see how difficult it was for him to move from A to B. Very slow, always super nice person, super happy, but difficult to see. Unfortunately, that day we couldn't play. We could just watch, but was good enough. Only a goalkeeper from our team was invited to play. We were all expecting to be called, but just the goalkeeper. But anyway, so the game started, and everybody very respectful, passing the ball to Maradona. But if it was like 50 centimeters away from his foot, he couldn't move to control the ball. So after maybe 5 minutes, he hasn't touched the ball at all. There was a corner for his team. And he walked to take the corner and make the cross to the box. Instead of crossing, he straight to the goal. No chance for the goalkeeper. Olympic goal, first touching the ball, straight from the corner, 1-0. All the players, both teams came to high five to him. It was really impressive. How? On that physical condition, he could touch the ball in such perfect way. It was a goal. All the players were like, wow. And we who were watching were also amazed. Oh, he is really different. There is something else. That was beautiful to see.
That's an amazing story. I have to ask, where were you at when this took place?
It was in Zurich, in the FIFA headquarters. So on our training pitch where we play every week, the stars were playing there. So it was good to see.
So you got to see that in person. It wasn't like you were watching that on television. You were actually there physically present.
Yeah. No, nobody told me. I was there witnessing the moment.
Wow, what an incredible moment to witness. And speaking of witnessing, you've got another interesting story here about people looking, some important people looking on your phone.
Yeah. The only thing that I say regret of that story, there is no photos of it. I even searched on the archive because we have lots of photographers all the time around to see, but no photos. But it was the World Cup final now in Qatar, so basically 1 year ago. And I was one of the person working. My duty was actually to similar to the other one, which was a disaster, to put the players to the stage, the right players in the right moment. So I got the list of the best goalkeeper, the best young player, then the best player, second best. So those were Messi, Mbappe, the striker. So I got everything. So I was talking to the players and putting them in order, ready to start the show, and everybody getting their confirmation on the radio. The stage is ready. The medals are ready. I said, the players are ready. This is ready. The sound. But there was one, and probably the most important one, silent, which was the trophy. Where's the trophy? Where's the trophy? And then my boss, who was not on the radio, but he was on the side of the pitch, what's going on? What's going on? I said, the trophy is not there. So, then I said to myself, you know what? I go to the tunnel to see what's going on. And when I got to the tunnel, my protocol colleague, who works with FIFA president, asked me, do you know which players are going to receive the individual awards? I said, yes, of course, I know, that's what I'm doing, right? And I had the list on my phone. So I showed to the president. So I was putting my WhatsApp and showing him, okay, this is the best player, this is the best young player, this is that. And then when I look it up, it was not only the FIFA president, but was Macron, the president of France, and the Emir of Qatar. So it was me and the three of them surrounding, looking to my mobile. And I said, what's going on? Those people who we never get close to, right? It's always full of security, but that was at the time the most secure place in the country. And I was in the middle, they were looking to my mobile. I said, oh, what? Let me go back to my role and put the players in. And then and actually what happened with the trophy, it got locked in the door because security of the Emir of Qatar blocked everything for him to walk. But they blocked before the trophy entered. So it took a few minutes to solve and open that door to let the trophy in, and then we started with the ceremony.
What an incredible story. You've got three of the most powerful people on earth looking at your phone.
Yeah, that was it, but I don't have a photo.
Yeah. Well, good thing you had your phone ready and they were looking at that, and you didn't have some weird social media post or something on your phone that these people were looking at. So what an amazing experience. And crisis averted. You found the trophy, and everything proceeded. One other lesson that you've got mentioned that you sent to me was about dressing according to the occasion. And so I want to ask you about that. And you have suit and tie at 40 degrees Celsius, which is for our American listeners, that's about 104 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's hot weather to be wearing a suit and a tie. So why don't you tell us the story behind this lesson?
Yeah, that was also back in the years. I was in Goiânia. Goiânia is near Brasilia, the capital of Brazil, so very hot area. And we had a meeting with a very high-level politician. So we dress suit and tie. But we also had to inspect the stadium. There would be a match, Brazil-Netherlands, also in preparation for the World Cup. So it was a high-profile match. And we were there with the state secretary, looking at the stadiums and talking. And at one moment, he looked to us, can I remove my tie? He said, I'm only wearing a tie because you guys are here. And I said, we are only wearing a tie because you are here. So let's remove this. And it was funny. It was just I wouldn't say it's a lesson, but it was just funny. We laughed, and then we sit for lunch and we had drinks on a way more relaxed way. But just the expectations of both sides, it was interesting.
Wow. Well, gosh, you've got so many stories. You mentioned now that you've got 2026 World Cup is happening here in North America. You're actively working on that, the preparations for that. And I know that cities are looking into the possibility of hosting women's World Cup in 2027. I see Brazil is submitted their candidature, their interest, and so it sounds like you're really, really busy. So, what is your, aside from those things, are you working on anything else specifically at the moment, or are those consuming all of your time?
Oh yes, I think I mean it's been an amazing experience to go across North America, um, not only the US but Mexico and Canada to see the infrastructure, people, and some of the best stadiums in the world. It's super interesting, but it's super challenging. We are coming from 8 stadiums in Qatar to 16 in the next World Cup. Uh, so it has been an amazing experience to go through North America and see the stadiums in Canada, in the US, and Mexico. So different realities, but some of the most impressive stadiums in the world, like probably the most modern one, SoFi, and the most historical one, Azteca, which for me it's just amazing to be there every time. It's going to be the only stadium hosting 3 FIFA World Cups. So the history in that stadium is something else. And coming from a World Cup with 8 stadiums in Qatar and now going for 16, it simply doubles the amount of work. And to know every single stadium and plan every single entrance. So this is going to be spectators, media, broadcast, and the teams, and every single flow, staircase, elevator. It's been a challenge, but I'm happy to have this opportunity and to learn. I think the challenge we have is in transforming the NFL stadiums into football, soccer stadiums and merge their knowledge, fantastic entertainment, great operations, with some football rules and some protocols that we do have. But so far, it's been great.
One of the things that you mentioned, Tiago, in our back and forth communication before this interview, after, or I think at the time you were in the middle of this exhausting tour of all the facilities over here on this side of the pond, as we say, and the challenge of finding people to do this work, and that being said, I mean, there are people who want to get involved in this industry because it is a very interesting industry. It does require a lot of people, and you have to be really dedicated to it. But I'm curious, from your perspective, now having been in this industry for more than 20 years, aside from all these lessons learned and stories that you've told today, what advice would you give to someone who is just starting out in this business or is thinking about potentially pursuing a career in major events? What advice or lessons would you share with them?
Yeah. First of all, I think it's not so easy and so beautiful as it seems, right? It seems super glamorous, super nice, but it requires a lot. It requires a lot of dedication, a lot of weekends, a lot of nights, because when everybody's having fun watching a game, there is a bunch of people working who cannot be watching the game, cannot be with their families, cannot go out to a bar or restaurant to enjoy. Right? So I think this is the first thing to think about it. Yes, it's great. I enjoy, but it's not that straightforward as many people think. And secondly, you need to be prepared for that. It's not that, okay, I like sports, I'm going to work with that. You need to know the business. What are your goods on a sport event? Are you good in transportation? Are you good in catering? Are you good on broadcast? Are you good in media operations or competition operations? So what is your your background. What do you know? I'm a fan, but so it's not so easy. You gotta be prepared. You gotta study. Yes, it's not so easy to find good courses because it's a new industry. It's not something I want to be a lawyer or a doctor, which are professions that are there for years and centuries. It's a new industry, so I would say try to study, try to be prepared, and start from the lowest. Don't try to go into the World Cup or to the Olympic Games or to NFL right at the beginning. It doesn't work like that. Right? People need to start to grow and get knowledge, get experience to be reaching higher steps.
I think that's fantastic advice. I was thinking as you were talking about this and sharing this, I was thinking exactly what you said. The industry is not that old as compared to some other industries. And so that presents some challenges, but it also, I think, presents some opportunities for more innovation, for creative thinking. And if you are a person that is someone who enjoys solving problems and seeing a situation and saying, hey, maybe this could be done in a different way, those kinds of opinions I think are welcome in this industry because it is still pretty new, and I think there are opportunities to innovate in the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, well, Tiago, thank you for spending an hour with me today. I'll let you go and I'll let the lights rest. So, we won't be taking up too much energy and impacting the climate so much on this conversation. But before we leave, I do have to ask, in the work that you're doing with FIFA and other, in all the various events and things in FIFA, if people want to learn more about the work that you're doing or they want to connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
No, I think LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the best way. If I might take some time to reply, I apologize in advance because sometimes it gets a lot. Especially recently, we published few positions, so a lot of people coming. So I always try to reply everyone, but it may take some times. But yes, LinkedIn, feel free. I'm happy to receive connections and messages.
All right, fantastic. So look up Tiago on LinkedIn. He's a great guy and super easy to get along with, and I think back to our times back in Pan American Games in the Rio 2016 bid. I look back at those experiences with a lot of good, positive memories. They were very challenging, but at the same time, it was a really positive experience, primarily because of the relationships and people that I got to work with, people like you. So, Tiago, again, thank you so much. And listeners and viewers who have joined us for this conversation, thank you. And we ask you to please like and subscribe to our podcast. We'll catch you again soon. Tiago, thank you.
No, thank you. I think this hour was just too fast. It would be great to continue, but I appreciate the opportunity and the time to talk to you. Really, really great. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Likewise.